94.0. Reviving communities.
The views expressed on this program do not necessarily represent those of Revive FM or its management.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, good evening. You're here on Revive FM 94.0 on your FM dial with me, Ali Kamara, the Muslim Poet. We have a special guest on the show today. I just want to welcome JJ Bola to the show, who is a writer, poet, and educator. JJ, good evening.
How you doing, Mr. Kamara? Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How are you, by the way, with what's going on with the COVID and everything? How's your friends? How's your family? How's everything?
You know, there's I try to stay on the positive side, so there's lots to be grateful for. Still here, still healthy, thank goodness. And yeah, luckily family and friends are well, just keeping well. It is challenging, not gonna lie. I think we've all kind of reached that stage where we've hit a bit of a mental wall, and each day seems to be a bit harder than the last, but there's lots to look forward to. And so, yeah, it's just about keeping on going, really, and staying hopeful.
Yeah, definitely. We're getting there. JJ, I know that you was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which was formerly Zaire. Tell us about your upbringing there.
So I was born there, but I left there quite young. So I was about 6 or 7 years old when we left. And during the time that I left, so it would have been like early 90s. This was largely like the start of what would become, the descent of the state and civil conflict, etc. But from a child's perspective and a point of innocence, I guess you're really sheltered from a lot of things. There were some things that we did see, but some things that we just kind of saw as normal. We didn't really see things too much different. But I just remember being really close with family. Right. Having a really good kind of like cultural connection, really good like strong upbringing on our language and our culture, which was, really fulfilling for me, I think. Right. So yeah, I've got lots of positive memories about Congo and about like growing up there in the small time that I did spend there.
Right. Because I know one of the things you said that you came to the UK as a refugee.
Yeah.
Coming here as a refugee, you found that it was a funny place to be.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously you come, and as a kid, like it's the first time coming from Congo, majority black country, obviously overwhelmingly majority black. You come to the UK and it's like, oh, white people. And so you realize people might look a little bit different, might behave a little bit different. Yeah. You realize that people speak a different language, and the culture is completely different, so you adapt. But I think it's also a learning curve as well. I think as a young child, like you realize that you have certain skills. That's why I think children are geniuses, so just to be able to go from one environment to another and adapt so quickly is incredible, because no one tells you that this is where you're going and this is what's going to happen. Like, there's
no manual for that.
Yeah, exactly. There's no manual for that. There's no conversation, there's no explanation. One day you're in your mum's kitchen in Congo. The next minute you find yourself like, in the cold North London. Like, how did I get here? All so, right. Yeah.
What was it like growing up in Camden Town? I know you're from Camden Town. How was that growing up in Camden?
It's really interesting because I look back and I think Camden is such a really interesting place, very diverse. Yeah. But not just in terms of like cultures and ethnicity and races, but also like subcultures and activities and stuff. So like Camden, you had the punks, you had the rockers, you had like the hip hop crew, you had like basketball players, you had the geezers, you had the lads, you had the footballer. It was just a whole wave of people. And so for me, I think really what that allowed me to do is to learn about different types of people. And my dad always raised us to kind of be like, there's nowhere that you don't belong, like don't be afraid of different people, speak with everyone, talk with everyone, respect others if they show you respect, etc., etc. So I always felt like I could go anywhere and talk to anyone. And, that kind of like allowed me to really learn a lot, so I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, embracing different cultures and different people, I think it's a great thing. Do you know what I mean? I think it helps people to grow. in many areas. I read somewhere that you said you come from a community of refugees who, for a long time, have had to navigate existence while experiencing much of what people are only paying attention to.
So, I mean, if you look at it now, right? So obviously, the deportations of the Windrush generation is a very tragic issue, and that's woken up a lot of people, you know, in terms of like how volatile citizenship is, and how it's actually meaningless and the state can revoke it at any time. And also, if you look at what's happened like in the past couple of weeks and this week, really, with the case of the young woman who was killed by the police officer.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then the new police bill that's coming in, that's essentially denying people the right to protest and all of these kind of things.
Why?
Yeah. So I mean, that's so this is the thing, right? So people are now saying, oh, we're becoming a dystopian state or an authoritarian state and so forth. But like from a refugee perspective, we always have been. Like the UK has always been that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
we've been under the thumb, haven't we? We've always been under the thumb.
Exactly. We've always been under thumb. Some of us may not have been aware of certain things due to our experiences. That's fine. But like for me, growing up as a refugee and the majority of people who I knew as refugees, we were never allowed the same freedoms as everyone else. So we always had to be really careful about what we did, where we went, where we said, like what we said and who we said it to. So even stuff like protests, I mean, we just weren't really allowed to go to that. I didn't start going to protests until I got a passport. Do you know what I mean? You go to a protest now, you get arrested, boom, you know? I know loads of people who got deported for one made up reason or another. Wow. You know, and that was just the facts. And so that state of survival that a lot of refugees have always known, people who grew up in refugee communities have always known, is starting to reach the general population a bit more. And so people are waking up to what's happening, or what's been happening.
I mean, I'm quite surprised that the UK wants to bring in a bill like that, you know, where, you know, it's one of these countries that is, you know, you're allowed to express yourself in terms of protesting and your rights and stuff like that. And people come here to seek asylum and stuff like that, different countries, and, you know, and they fight in the courts for their freedom and they're giving justice. So to tell us today that you want to bring in a bill where we can't protest, what rights do we have then?
Well, that's the thing. And the thing is, the UK, I always say the UK has always had brilliant marketing, right? But the reality of the UK has not been what we think it is. And so on the surface, it's always kind of seen as like, you know, multicultural society, everyone's welcome here and so forth. But if you look beneath the surface, like where, like, I mean, I remember experiencing racism throughout my years growing up. Like that was very normal. You know, like getting into fights with racist, you know, nationalist and National Front type people, like that was normal to my childhood growing up. And there was a period where that stuff wasn't really spoken about, but I've always known about it, and I've always known people who've gone through it. And I remember having conversations with my parents, preparing us about that stuff when we're going on our way to school and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so, yeah, like the UK is just showing its face. And it's the same face that it's had all these years.
I'm kind of shocked in that sense. You know, it was like people like Bob Marley, you know, with his music in the message where he said, you know, does art, you know, have the power to transcend and transform, you know, the lives of people, you know, in society today.
Yeah, I think it does. I think art wakes us up in a way that maybe statistics or politics doesn't. I think art reaches the human side of us, you know, the core of us, and wakes us up to maybe like the suffering of other people, but also ourselves. And it gives us like the ability to imagine the world different to what it is. And so if you look at the kind of art that was out, especially in terms of like Black art, right, or art of oppressed people, look at the kind of art that was out during Bob Marley's time, right? What people were singing about: revolution, peace, love, etc., etc. And then you look at what's out there now. You know, you can't really hear a song. You know what I'm gonna say, innit? You know what I'm gonna say. You both know it.
Carry on.
Like, you can't really hear a song now without that doesn't contain someone's body part, male or female, sexualized in one way or another. Do you know what I mean? Like, and anything that is supposed to be revolutionary or progressive has kind of been commodified and sold back to people. So people think that a progressive world is something where they have more money, you know, and so they aim for like being materially wealthy rather than actually like supporting communities and so forth. And yeah, that's music has been commodified, you know.
Yeah. Do you think, JJ, that today that the way the music and stuff has been sexualized, that it's de-emasculating the males and in that sense? Because, you know, I don't really see no real messages in the music. You know, like you would get, you know, you'd have your Public Enemies, you'd have your Run DMCs, or you know, you would have you know, real songs that can really impact people in such a positive way. Now it's just like there's no connection there.
I mean, absolutely. I think that, especially if we're talking about black music culture has always had an uplifting message, always had a progressive message, largely, right? So the music that's tried to wake people up to the realities of what we're facing in terms of like our oppression as black people. And what has been happening is that, you know, if you think about how each generation there's a dilution of like values and cultures and so forth and traditions that we know a little bit less in terms of like our traditional cultures than the generation before.
Right.
And a lot of that is because of what we're being influenced by in terms of like the music. And so at times where, you know, you are hearing songs like Public Enemy and so forth, and even Tupac, who's talking about racial injustice, you're now hearing the kind of song, and those were mainstream, you know, those were mainstream artists, like as in they were widely recognized artists. Now you're hearing, you know, I don't even want to, because the thing is, I don't even want to talk about some like rappers, you know, because it gives them
validation.
Like, validation, exactly, you know, that they're getting the attention because they don't care about whether or not they're spreading a positive message. It's about the attention and it's about the material wealth as well. And if you think about it, it's not even really the music that's sold to us, right?
Yep.
If you think about who really consumes modern day rap music,
it's white people,
right? That's it. Do you know what I mean? And it's white people, and it's the children of middle class white people who are removed from the realities of the environment. Do you know what I mean?
You took the words coming out of my mouth. Absolutely.
Right. So it's almost like a kind of like performance, if you will, where they put us on stage and they say, wow, look at these people, you know, they're performing for us. Because how much of that music actually really relates to us, you know? And how, and I think we have to really have like a serious conversation in terms of us as a community. We always complain about, okay, which artists are representing and so forth. But we can support those artists who are representing. Like one of my favorite artists in the UK is Akala. Like incredible. He's one of the most intelligent brothers that we have on the planet. Right? Are you telling me like he should not be mainstream? Do you know what I mean? Just
he should be getting Piers Morgan's job.
Like, oh my God, can you imagine? No, they couldn't give it to a brother like that. He will upset a lot of people, you know. And so it's things like that. And so you have to think about the example that they're putting before us, you know. And this is why I think it's more important than ever to look to our own kind of community rather than looking to the TV and social media and whatever. Let's actually look to ourselves and see who's given a positive example.
Yeah, I think we need to look deeper inside our own community without a shadow of a doubt. And Akala is one of the gems in the
man.
Without a shadow of a doubt. JJ, do you think we will ever have equality between men and women?
I mean, I hope so. But I think we can't have equality unless we, especially in terms of like gender equality, unless we actually understand the power structures that reinforce the inequality. Do you know what I mean? Like people just want to have equality and without addressing the certain issues that are affecting either genders. To be honest, do you know what I mean? Because also, like like as a man, obviously I recognize that I benefit from male privilege, but this patriarchal system that keeps women oppressed also doesn't help us as men.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, if we want to talk about equality, we have to talk about removing the patriarchal system, making things equal for women, but also removing some of the toxic elements and toxic expectations that are placed on men as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so this is the thing. It's like a lot of men trying to keep up with, we're trying to keep up with something that we didn't even create. Like, do you know how mad that is, right? So as a man, you've got a, you know, the expectations, you've got to be strong, you've got to be the provider, you've got to be financially this, that, the third, whatever, all of these things.
Yeah.
And so at some point you think, okay, do I make the decision? Do I follow this and try to keep up to this thing, this expectation that's increasingly just seems so much more bizarre and doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
Or do I try to carve my own path, but actually it's going to be more difficult for me?
Yeah.
You know, like it's actually more difficult. Like society rewards toxic male behaviors more than it does progressive male behaviors. Like right now, like I'll give you an example of, like, let's say like the rapper Future. Yeah. Like
I read that in your book. Yep.
Right. So if you look at him, you know, he's obviously a very wealthy man, but he's got like 8 children by 8 different women. Like he's in strip clubs every night. Clearly not the example that anyone wants, you think, for their child or for themselves, right? But you compare him to who's now the partner of his ex-girlfriend, right? Yeah. And you know, Russell Wilson, although he's rich as well, and whatever. And so you look at given to us.
Yeah.
What's been given to us. And a lot of young boys are seeing Future being praised and seeing Russell Wilson being put down. And so you see a 12-year-old, you think, okay, all I got to do is get money and disrespect women. Like, that's still, if it, like, there's no incentive, you know, apart from the person's own conscience, you know, like society rewards men who are toxic. So it's like, and we are part of society.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, how do we actually reward the kind of men that are doing great things and positive things and can, you know, set a better future?
Hold that thought. Let's continue this after the break. Yeah, we're on FM 94.1 on your FM dial, Ali Kamara Muslim. But we've got JJ Bola in the studio today talking about his book, The Mask of Masculinity and Male Toxic Masculinity. We're back after the break.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम लिसनर्स, उम्मीद है कि आप ठीक होंगे इंशाल्लाह। जैसे हमें पता है कि हमारी फिजिकल हेल्थ बहुत जरूरी है और हमें पता है ये जो साल गुजरा है हम सब के लिए
This is Aisha. Her father died in an accident at a very young age. She lives with her mother and siblings. There are millions like Aisha who do not have access to the very basics of life, resulting in her and many others not being able to attend school. Through Minhaj Welfare Foundation, your charity is dedicated towards supporting the full needs of orphans and needy children around the world. Donate today. Call us now, 0300 30 30 777, or visit us on minhajwelfare.org.
Here at Duncan Lewis Solicitors, we specialize in immigration and family law. We have a proven track record of successful applicants who we've helped secure permanent residency for. From spouse visas to seeking asylum, our expert advisors will assist you throughout the whole application process. We offer a free no obligation consultation, so call us now on 0208 432 3350. That's 0208 432 3350, or visit us at 298 Romford Road, London, E79HD.
Minhaj School of Islamic Sciences provides quality Islamic education for children aged between 5 and 15 years old. As well as teaching classical Islam, including Tajweed, Fiqh, Seerah and Aqidah, we endeavour to equip children with essential Islamic manners, morals and values. Here at MSIS, our experienced teachers create an inspirational learning environment where we strive to cater for the needs of every child. For enrolment inquiries, inquire in person at Minhaj School of Islamic Sciences, Monday to Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. at 292-296 Romford Road, or email admin.edu_London@minhajuk.org.
Thinking about selling or letting your home? With Maxwell Estates, you don't need to look any further. Well established with over 15 years of experience, Maxwell Estates are specialists in residential sales and lettings. We manage over 200 properties in and around Northwest London, keeping our landlords and tenants updated with all the latest laws and legislations. Based in Edgware, our experienced specialist negotiators always ensure we maximize the full potential of your property. Call us now on 0208 952 0808 for a free no obligation quotation, or visit our website www.maxwellestates.co.uk for further information. Maxwell Estates, the name you can trust.
मुंह और नाक तक चेहरे को ढांपना जब भी पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट का इस्तेमाल करें या फिर जरूरी काम से शॉप पर जाना हो। धुंधलाए हुए ग्लासेस। हर कोई जो अच्छे से चेहरा ढांप रहा है वो कोविड-19 को फैलने से रोकने में मदद कर रहा है, क्योंकि इसे कोई भी कैच कर सकता है और कोई भी फैला सकता है। इन चीजों से फर्क पड़ता है। आइए ऐसा करते रहें। घर रहिए, NHS को तहफ्फुज़ दीजिए, जिंदगियां बचाइए।
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM, then visit www.revivefm.co.uk or contact our sales team now on 07944 565616. That's 07944 565616. Advertise with Revive FM.
Revive FM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
And sisters, welcome back after the break. We've got JJ Bola in the studio today, writer, educator, and author. JJ, you was talking just before the break. You was talking about Future and how his masculinity is, kind of like celebrated. The fact that he's, got 8 children with like 8 different women, and his ex girlfriend now has got this other guy who's Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson, who is rich as well and famous, but he's totally different guy, like trying to be a husband and not going to the strip clubs every night. And tell us why Future would be celebrated more than this guy. Why?
Well, I think a lot of it is to do with the kind of toxic masculine. If you look specifically within the Black community, right, there's a lot of misrepresentation. And historically over the years, which dates back to even colonialism and slavery, the representation of Black men as sexually aggressive, as irresponsible, as immature has been a stigma that's been perpetuated for centuries. And this is just a continuation of that stigma, because to celebrate someone like Russell Wilson, who takes care of his family, he's a loving husband and a dedicated father, would be something that's empowering to us and uplifting to us. And it's not something that the system celebrates. Rather, you see always like these kind of like materialistic people, these kind of certain from certain entertainment backgrounds who take up more of a voice, than anyone like who is even asking them to be. We've got so many brilliant educators and so many brilliant artists and musicians and scientists and so forth. Why is it that apparently it's only a small section of either rappers or actors who seem to be the representatives or the spokespeople of the Black community?
Do you think that, in a sense, that's like a setup, or they're trying to sabotage the view of Black men within society, or do you think that is just that stereotype that's kind of just stuck throughout the years? Because it's not just Black men that have loads of kids. I read in the newspaper once there was a guy from somewhere in like Southeast England that had like 14 kids, and he was on the dole. But that wasn't really highlighted as much as it would be if, just say Desmond from down the road had like 4 baby mothers. It's highlighted a lot more, like, a Black guy's gonna have a baby mother, but it's not always the case. I grew up with a white guy. What's his name? Named Gilly, and Gilly's got like 6 baby mothers, and he's a white guy.
Well, this is the thing, right? And a lot of research even shows that Black men and Black fathers are some of the highest amongst being the most present fathers in their children's lives, and also the most active as well. And
Right.
so this stigma that, you know, black men have baby mothers and, you know, they leave black women to be single parents is actually just a continuation of the kind of representation that's been shown since slavery days and since colonialism. And now we live in an era like that, you know, really is neo-colonialism as defined by Kwame Nkrumah, but we don't recognize it as that. We sometimes we see it as some kind of like post-colonial era where it's an era of like racial equality, but there has never been racial equality. And so it's been a continuation of like these stigmas that we've been seeing for the past 500 years. And for me, I look at it as like, so James Baldwin says, you know, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. Right. And so for me, I look at it in the sense of like, okay, is this my opinion or am I looking at what's actually been happening for the past 4 or 5 centuries? And it's just one variation of what's been happening. I wish it was just my opinion. But actually, if you look at the types of representation that's been happening for the past 400 or 500 years, it's always been destructive to us as a people. And that's the function of white supremacy.
Right. Wow. So it's just something that, as they say, something you're going to have to deal with, or something we're going to have to somehow overcome together by celebrating the people who do real stuff within the community, and not just the people who are entertainers and who are in clubs, you know, popping £50,000 bottles of champagne and wearing Rolexes. Like, it's just to say they are the representation of this community. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Like, you can't, like Malcolm X says it, and it's like you can't expect the same people who, the same system, the same structure who has oppressed you for the past 400 or 500 years to suddenly show you in the best possible light. Like, we're fighting for this representation and so forth information. I'm like, yes, that's good to do on one hand, but also on the other hand, I'm like, let's uplift each other. Let's actually look to each other's communities, in our own communities, and see. And so for me, when I look for examples of like positive and healthy relationships, how to be a husband, how to be a wife, etc., I look to my elders in my own community. I can't wait for this actor or this, you know, rapper or whatever to get married or because that's not, do you know what I mean? That's not anywhere close to my reality. My reality has always been the people who are closest to me, and that's what I'm trying to aspire towards. But that's not the kind of examples that are given to us, you know.
Well, that's something we might have to try and teach the younger generation going forward. Do you think it's wrong for men to cry?
No, absolutely not. I encourage men to cry. You know, admittedly, I cry myself as well. Like, from time to time, I've had several moments where I've cried to myself.
My hands up. I have.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And we have to own that, you know. And that's perfectly healthy.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? It's an emotional expression which is human. Everyone has it. Everyone feels sadness. Everyone also feels joy. You know, and you know, there's going to be tears of sadness, and there's also going to be tears of joy. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but in some cultures, I'm sure you might be able to agree with me this or disagree with me. In some cultures, it's frowned upon for men to cry.
And what's interesting about that, is those are more so Western cultures. And for any kind of African cultures that's adopted that, we've adopted that largely because of colonialism. But there's some of our cultures that where there's like certain practices where men come together to create like traditional healing spaces where they can express themselves and they can cry and talk about their thoughts and their fears and so forth. And what's interesting is if you look at the pandemic, right? And that how that's isolated a lot of us from our friendships and relationships and made a lot of us feel alone. Now more than ever, we're seeing the importance of like being able to come together and express ourselves and release our kind of emotions and burdens. And so, like, if we look to our own cultures, we'll see that, you know, it's really important for us to be able to express ourselves. It's part of our human nature.
Yeah, I think the pandemic's actually definitely taught us to connect a lot more. I mean, I think it actually forced us to be honest with you.
Yeah, man. We realize, like, you know, you're not an island. Like, no man is an island. You're not. And this is the thing. It's like I was talking with one of the young people I worked the other day, and it's like, I was born alone. I'm gonna die alone. But it's like, no, firstly, you weren't born alone. Like, how dare you just forget your mother? Like, who carried you for 9 months? You know? And secondly, is you're not, when you're born, you're also born into a community. You know, that community hopefully takes you in, whether you recognize it or not. And when you pass, you also leave behind a community and you transition. And so this born alone, die alone, stoic individual mentality is so much more a reflection of like a modern day capitalist, materialist mindset that says that you have to be ruthless if you want to make it, and you can't care about others. You know, you have to be just about your money, and that's the most important thing. So a lot of young men lose their way just chasing money and destroying relationships, right? Whether that's friends, family, parents, etc., until they get too old and then they can't repair it, you know? So yeah, it's really important for us to understand that as human beings, we are made by the connections that we have, you know, so we have to really honor those.
100%. JJ, is it do you think that women nowadays don't like a soft man? I take that, why I say that is from your book, Mask Off, Masculinity Redefined. I found out from what I've seen that a lot of women want this tough exterior guy, you know, like you come into the house, his voice is deep. Hello, I'm home, blah, 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 kind of thing. And then they've got the other guy that comes in, hello, hi, I'm home, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's that. Why is that? Like, I don't understand that.
So I think there's like a few issues here, and one of them is that there are some women who have what's known as like internalized patriarchy, and so they also like there's, you know, the women who internalize these toxic expectations of masculinity, right? That you have to be strong, that you have to be, you know, aggressive, or you have to be confrontational, you have to be authoritarian, demanding, tell them what to do, you have to be able to control them, you know, like, and you get a lot of this narrative of, I need a man who can tell me what to do, can take control and so forth. And that's just like, that's not actually their own thinking. That's them reproducing what has been conditioned into us from like a patriarchal society, right? And so you as a man, you might be a young man, you know, who's a bit more soft, who's a bit more tender, and that whole kind of strong, aggressive type is not your personality at all. And so if you've been unsuccessful in terms of dating because you haven't got the strongest exterior, a lot of young men, then it becomes something that they put on, you know, to try and live up to this expectation. And so if you look at the society that we live in now, and the kind of men and relationships that are shown out there as normal, a lot of it is toxic. When was the last time you watched a movie that had a very healthy, you know, relationship that showed conflict resolution through communication? Like two couples who were arguing, they sat down and talked things through very calmly without swearing at each other or without any of these. Like, when was the last time? Or two couples who had a disagreement and then sought the advice of their elders to help settle it. You know, we don't, that's what our parents' generation did a lot of the time. You know, when you had conflict, you mediated with other people, because that's what, and I literally remember, because my parents are like, have been married for nearly 40 years now, and are amongst like the elders in our community. There were so many times when I was like 12 years old where this married couple would come to our house and our parents would be talking with them deep into the night. And I think, why are they coming here on Friday? Like, what's going on? And then they come the next day, and I'm like, what? You know, as 16 years old, 15 years old, I didn't really understand it. But now it's like, oh, okay. I get it. And then if you look at this younger generation now, where are those examples? They're not getting those examples. They're looking, a lot of them are exposed more so to YouTubers and their relationships, right? Or relationships that are shown to be toxic in the media, or celebrities. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, look at like the Will Smith and Jada Smith situation. You know, everyone was like, oh, entanglement. That's the kind of stuff that we've normalized. Like, you know, you normalize like, oh, a man cheating or a woman being with multiple guys, and like these kind of really toxic. Now, the thing is, for me, is I think everyone has their own way. Like, it's your prerogative to be able to live how you want to live. I absolutely understand that. However, if the way that you're living is actually to a detriment to who you are inside, then you have to really question, is this really freedom? Like, are you really free? A lot of guys, and I know, and I say this from the male perspective and the female perspective, I know a lot of men out there who are like, talk about making money and being with bad girls and whatever. And I've sat down and spoken with them one-to-one, and they're like, bro, I just want someone to care for, man. I just want someone to care for me, be there for me. But, and I'm like, what you believe and what you want versus the way you live, they're not aligned. So you have to make the sacrifice. And so,
And I think it's about being honest with yourself, and being honest with yourself. Going back to what you said about the elders having those meetings. I mean, my auntie and uncle are in, well, they're in Sierra Leone at the moment, and I think they've been married for about 40 or 45 years or something like that. And if there was ever like conflict or whatever, you know, they would have something called a barret, where you bring family members together and you sit down and talk about it. You know what I'm saying? You talk about the issue and the problems, and you try and iron it out. And I think that way is a really good way. But the thing is, nowadays, some people don't want people in their business, or they could be embarrassed their actions or the things that they've done. So they kind of keep it hush-hush, where only some know about it. But sometimes I think it's very healthy to talk about it, because if you keep it swept under the rug, it's going to be very difficult to talk about, and you're not really addressing it. So it's just going to surface up again, or if the situation isn't resolved, it could just become normalized in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what caused the destruction of so many, like the foundation of relationships and marriages and all of that as well. So yeah, like we need those examples. We need those examples. A lot of us, we don't know them, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if something is addressed, at least you can actually talk about it and see if you can make a solution to it, rather than pretending that it's not there. Because if you pretend that it's not there, then you're kind of like building a situation where, hey, this is normal. It's just, you know, it's just another day, basically. You know, like that's how it is. That's how it goes, and that in itself can be very what's the word? It can be very damaging going forward. Very damaging forward.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
JJ, we're going to go to another break in a second, but after the break, I'd like to talk about some of your work that you've done and some of the books that you've written. And I know that you're with a few organizations as well. So we'll be back after the break. We've got JJ Bola on the show today.
Through Minhaj Welfare Foundation, your giving saves lives. Your support has provided more than 3 million people with access to clean and safe water, emergency relief in natural disaster and crisis-affected areas around the world, supported orphans and needy children with a better future. This year, your help can do more. Donate your zakat, sadaqah, and charitable donations to any of your chosen projects. Call us now, 0300 30 30 777, or visit us on minhajwelfare.org.
Amigos, the signature name when it comes to burgers and shakes. Our succulent burgers are prepared in front of you while you wait. Whether you go for our 6-ounce Mexican or our 10-ounce Texan, or you decide to go for our messy fries or our buffalo wings, one thing you're guaranteed is quality. Dine in with your friends and family at 400 Cranbrook Road, Gants Hill, or order in on Uber Eats, Just Eat, or Deliveroo. Amigos, hats off to great burgers.
Super Best Meze Grill, the Turkish restaurant where all our food is prepared to perfection. Our mixed grill family platters include lamb shish, Adana kebab, lamb ribs, chicken doner, lamb doner, chicken wings, and lamb chops. And all are served with rice, salad, along with a selection of our cold mezes. To see our full menu, go to superbestmezegrill.co.uk. For the perfect dining setting, visit us now at 21 to 23 Broadway, Stratford, E15 4B, or call 0208 555 335. Super Best Meze Grill.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM, then visit www.revivefm.co.uk or contact our sales team now on 07944 565616. That's 07944 565616. Advertise with Revive FM.
A warm welcome from myself, Tej. The rollout of the vaccine program is now in full swing with millions already vaccinated. Once more, we have Dr. Dilsher Singh joining us today and advising on the importance of having the vaccine and how they actually protect us.
Thank you, Tej. I would say the single most crucial point for our community to realize is that it's much more safer for your immune system to learn how to protect itself through a vaccine than by contracting COVID-19.
I think a lot of people, including myself, would like to know more about the side effects of the vaccines currently being deployed.
Like with all vaccines and medicines, it is possible you may experience mild side effects after your COVID-19 vaccine. However, most side effects are very mild and only last a short time.
Is it possible some side effects have not been discovered yet?
When we look at the history of vaccines and the side effects they may cause, all becomes apparent within a few weeks of trialing the vaccine. It is possible that rare side effects can come to light as more people are vaccinated. But it's highly probable that these would have been picked up in the clinical trials of 40 to 50,000 patients coming from all walks of life.
Thank you, Dr. Dilsher. For more information, you can visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccine.
Revive FM
94.0. On the radio.
on your mobile.
And online.
This is welcome back after the break in Revive FM 94.1 FM Dawud Ali Kamara Muslim Park. We've got JJ Bola in the studio today, writer, educator, and author. JJ, I would like to talk about your most recent book that you've written at the moment called The Selfless Act of Breathing. Tell us about that.
So that book is about a young man from London, or he lives in London. He's a teacher, works with young people, and he reaches a stage in his life where he's quite frustrated with a lot of things and starts to question his own existence.
Right.
And ultimately what he does is he makes the decision that he's going to take his life savings. He's going to go to America and then spend his money living how he wishes to live. And then at the end of it, when the money runs out, he's going to take his own life.
Wow. Yeah. I kind of read that line and I was like, wow, that is something. Congratulations on the book, by the way. I was going to say, I know that yourself used to be you was very into basketball growing up, but then you suffered about depression and you put the basketball to the side. Like I say, it's very brave of you to speak up and say that you actually suffered about depression. A lot of us wouldn't say that, especially us black men. How do people deal with that going forward, suffering with bouts of depression? How did you overcome that, basically?
So, I think like there's two types. I would always say, like, if it's clinical depression to the point where you feel like you cannot cope at all, like your daily activities, and even in terms of like being able to feed yourself or to being able to get out of bed, like, then that is a bit different to like functional depression, if you will. And so for me, in terms of getting out of that, for a long time, I didn't realize what I was experiencing, and this is like really low moods, like continuous bouts of like sadness and like inability to really see myself in anything, in any kind of future. Like I really did not think that I would,
wow,
live past a certain age type of thing. Like I thought there was absolutely no place or no value really, I think also on your own life and your own existence. And so I think like if I knew then what I know now, the first thing I would say to myself is to actually remove myself from the expectations of society, the pressures of society, the pressures of others, and so forth, and actually spend time with myself, getting to know myself, getting to know who I am, getting to know what I want out of life. And I was able to do that unknowingly
Right.
through writing. You know, I started off writing poems, and actually what I found out was that the poems, when I read them back, helped me to be creative and express myself.
Right.
But it also helped me to understand what I'm thinking and feeling,
Right.
you know. And then when I made my connections with others as well, I was like, oh, you're feeling the same way? I felt less alienated. You know, I wrote a poem called Fly, to those with wings for feet who keep on running. Fly, right? And it's about essentially like someone who runs away from their problems, but actually, like, you have wings, you know, so don't run, fly. And when I shared that poem, like people, I would connect with people and they'd say that's exactly how they've been feeling, you know, that they've been going through a like depressive episode or low moods and so forth. And then you realize that you're not alone in feeling this. You know, we all feel it because it's part of our fundamental human nature.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us also about the other book you've written, No Place to Call Home.
Yeah, so No Place to Call Home, that came out in 2017. That's a story of a family that come from Congo to the UK as refugees, and it tells a perspective from the dad and the firstborn son as well. And it's just about an experience about a young family trying to adjust and adapt in a really difficult situation. And I think we don't really hear enough of the stories of like our parents' generation, immigrant generation, refugee generation, and what they had to go through. Like, you know, when I go to a new country now, it's generally on holiday, but you know, I step out the airport and I'm quickly like, right, Google Maps this, you know what I mean? Like, translate this, Uber this. Like, imagine having to go somewhere new and you don't have and you don't have any money, you don't have any resources, you don't have any friends, you can't speak the language, and somehow you've got to raise. Well, my parents had 4 kids. You got to raise 4 kids. Like, what?
I rate our parents when they came here in the early 60s and that. Like, my dad and that. I rate him when he came here in the early 60s and the work they had to do and what he had to endure and stuff like that. And he used to say stuff to me like, Ali, why are you complaining for? Like, you don't know what I had to endure and what I had to go through day to day in the working environments that I had to work in the early 60s, 70s, you know? So I'm like, well, at that time, I didn't know what he was on about. I was like, what's he on about? I mean, but I get it now. But I didn't get it before. So we don't really. There's still a lot of improvement to make, but in terms of like what they went through, we ain't going through half. You know what I mean? We ain't going through half of that at all.
Oh, real talk. And I honestly, that's where I find my strength from. And I say this, it's like I always try to tell people, look, man, like if you're worried about what's happening in the world, and you know you can't see a way out, just connect with the stories of those who came before you and how they overcame. Like I look at my parents and I'm like, wow, the fact that you believed in a future for us and you know raising your children in the circumstances that you did.
Yeah.
Like, man, how can I not believe? I'm way further ahead than they ever were. Do you know what I mean? And I haven't even started raising kids yet, so I can't give up. And then it's like I'm doing things that they never imagined. You know?
100%.
Like they also had skills and you know all of that, but they didn't have the opportunity to do. Right. So like we can do things, you know. We have a lot of scope and we have a lot of power as well that we're just not seeing in ourselves.
Yeah, we just got to come together, like Bob Marley said. We just got to come together and celebrate each other and make it happen. I want you to, if you can, in a few minutes, we want to end the show if you don't mind today with one of your poems. I will let you choose which one it is. But before we do that, I know that you speak for Amnesty International and Africa Rights, and also know that you are an ambassador for United Nations, UNHCR for refugees. Congratulations on all those accolades, by the way, and enough respect. How did it feel for you, being an ex-refugee, to actually represent refugees on that stage?
You know, it was really interesting because, I mean, for all of these kind of stuff, I used to go to loads of talks before and stuff and sit in the audience, like, and just listen to a lot of people who didn't come from that experience talk about that experience. And I'd be like, nah, that ain't it, you know? Like, and I'm like, nah. And one of the things was they always talk about it in such a depressing way, like in such a dehumanizing way, like as if, you know, refugees are people who don't have skills or don't have agency. So for me, being able to speak about like my experience, but also my family's experience and general community's experience was incredible. Like I saw a lot of people who also felt that connection, other refugees. Like I did a workshop at Calais, you know, that was quote unquote called the jungle.
Yeah.
And it was like me and other young brothers like myself who had also like had refugee experience of one way or another, who were also writers, who were also poets. And some of them had gone through like extraordinarily more difficult circumstances than I possibly have. Like, and I'm like, and they're still hopeful. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, man, I can't give up, you know?
Amazing.
Like, and so, yeah, it's like seeing yourself in the mirror for the first time type of thing.
Absolutely amazing. JJ, I mean, there's so much for me to talk to you about. I could go on and on and on for like another hour or two. I think there's loads to talk about, and I've only got an hour here. I'd like to say thank you for coming on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Appreciate you.
If we could finish the show with one of your poems today, and I'll let you choose it. And I'd just like to say, when are you going to be doing any shows? When the lockdown's over, if you've got anything planned for any live shows and stuff like that, maybe you can let the listeners know, and we can put it up on the website and stuff like that.
Appreciate you, man. I will say it, but firstly, before I wanted to say just thank you to you as well, obviously, because this wouldn't have happened without you. And I appreciate your persistence. Do you know what I mean? Because I know that for like it's been a lot of back and forth emails, and you know, anyone could have easily gotten frustrated and given up. And you know, for me, it's a one-man show. Like I'm, you know, responding to stuff myself, and I haven't got a PA and all that. I like to deal with people directly, and so I really, really appreciate that. And it's been great being able to speak to you and also hear and learn as well. But yeah, in terms of like shows and stuff, I would say October is October's the main date. So we're gonna have the book launch.
I'm coming.
Yeah, I'll send you invites, man. But
before we get into it, I'm trying to say thank you as well, because it's also yourself that's actually accepted the interview. So it's also, you know, a big thank you on your part as well. I wanted to say one of your books, I know it's been translated into 5 languages. Is it A Place to Call Home?
It's Mask Off. That's been translated.
Mask of Masculinity. Yeah, I've actually got a copy here. I've been reading.
Bless you, bro. Appreciate that, man.
It's opened me up in areas I'm like, whoa, I've got to look at myself kind of thing. But I tell you what, we could really get into it. We could really go. I've got 2 minutes, my man. If you could finish the show with one of your poems today, that would be absolutely amazing.
All right, let me try and find a poem that I'll read something that I'll just get into something and then just tell me when to stop when you run out of time. Cool. This is called Something Beautiful. Okay, something beautiful is happening right here, right now, in this room, lifting the gloom from our consciousness. Like when the light of the moon reflects off open water into the night, something beautiful is happening. Caterpillar to butterfly, rose blossom, spring bloom, 2 star-crossed lovers' eyes meet for the first time. From across the room, I dreamed, when I was 2, my grandmother sat me on her knee and said, Mokili oyo ezaliya yo, namalubanayo okukumsa ango kitoko. And just like you, I didn't understand what she said, but the feeling stayed with me. And when I got older, I asked my father, and he replied, your grandmother talked because she didn't have much time left. I haven't seen her since, but wherever she is, she stays with me. A woman that I never knew. On that day, something beautiful happened when I first wrote poetry. And I'll end there because it's a bit of a long one.
Thank you. JJ, like I said, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. It's been absolutely amazing. You have on Revive FM 94.0 on your FM dial with me, Ali Kamara, the Muslim poet. Hope to see you again soon. I wish you all the best with the show in October. Did you say October?
Yeah.
October. Wish you all the best with the show in October. And you take care and stay safe. And much love. We might bump into you in Camden Town. You never know.
Absolutely, man. Shall we? We'll get a coffee when we're allowed, you know.
Definitely, my man. You take care. And thanks for coming on the show, JJ. Much love and all the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM, then visit